Hi, my name is Megan Robbins, and I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to even be considered to be a strength and conditioning coach for the basketball program. I have highly considered it, and I definitely have some great ideas for the basketball program as far as strength and conditioning programs throughout the year that can help for better success within the season. Um, Within the sport of basketball, particularly within the male gender, for the males team, the means to train during and off season are critical in preparing and sustaining an athlete's capabilities on the court. Given those variables, one must consider the physical movements performed during a game of basketball. So, certain movements within the sport are shooting, dribbling, passing, and layups. So, a typical jump shot would look something like this from the side, knees bending, elbow bending, wrist bending. A jump shot would also apply a jump during those movements. Given that within these movements, specific joints are being utilized, allowing for the movement of muscles, and these muscles must not only be properly stretched but maintained in relation to strength and durability. Given that many muscles within the glenohumeral and the humeral radial joints are being utilized within the upper body, during these movements, proper warm up and stretches must be performed before activity commences. With the use of both dynamic and static stretches in a generalized warm-up activity with intensity increasing from anywhere from 25 to 65%, particularly focusing on within like the movements on the upper body. External obliques can be beneficial. Latissimus dorsi, serratus anterior, triceps brachii, and posterior deltoid. Stretching these muscles can be really helpful when it comes to flexibility or being loose and preventing injury. Some of those stretches look something like this. So here would be stretching the triceps brachii, pulling the arm across the chest and stretching this muscle here. Also reaching one arm behind the back can also help this movement as well. Pulling side here would stretch the external obliques. This here. Um, Doing these stretches, holding for about 30 seconds, and even stretching anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes before exercises can really help in preventing injuries such as a rotator cuff injury, for example. This can be caused by frequently shooting, and basically any overhead activity on a frequent basis can cause an overuse injury such as that one. Using the arm in an overhead motion without proper stretching can inflame or even injure this tendon in the shoulder. It can vary from any short-term injury to a long-term injury depending on how much that tendon is overused. Given that basketball can be a really rigorous sport, the muscles within the lower body are used heavily, even aside from the jump shot and dribbling. You're running with the ball. You're cutting and recutting in order to get away from an opponent and make room to receive the ball. You're running down the court trying to beat the opponent down the court, making more opportunities to score. You're jumping for a rebound. Any position within the sport will make way for a lot of lower body movements, and utilizing those muscles and making you more susceptible to injuries, being that you're using them all the time. However, with proper prevention, these injuries can not wind up in your hands. Injuries that can happen frequently within the sport are Achilles tendonitis. ACL tears happens a lot. The most common is an ankle sprain, so anywhere from a V-cut, such as this one. So a V-cut would be here and cutting this way. It adds a lot of pressure to the ankle. Proper testing, I feel, would be most beneficial in order to understand the limits of an athlete and what they can handle and what they cannot. This can also determine and carry on into playing time within a game. It can give a coach an idea as far as how much playing time an athlete can handle while in the game, and just allow you to understand the exercises that can be applicable to that specific individual when you are planning on giving them a specific athletic agenda throughout the year, which would be my job, and just giving them an idea of where they are now and where they can be within a year span. Given factors within the sport, fitness tests that can apply appropriately to the sport are skin fold measurements. Although it's not very physical, it can just display the athlete's body composition, which is their proportion of weight of fat and lean tissue. It can also be in relation to the sport due to understanding how much an athlete can grow as far as just physical state throughout the season or throughout the year, and understanding how improving that number or improving that range can make way for better performance later on. A 1.5 mile run would be great just to test an athlete's aerobic capacity or aerobic fitness. Basketball is a very aerobic sport. It's a big mean for endurance and running for long periods of time, and being able to sustain your physical abilities or performance throughout that period of time without falling under the bus. You can also do a sit and reach test, which can measure flexibility. A T-test would be beneficial within basketball, mainly because basketball is very agility related, as far as cutting, as far as needing quick footwork when playing defense on an opponent, anything like that. It's the ability to basically stop, start, and change direction. And the speed that somebody can do that can obviously change given practicing and plyometric activities that can be related in this strength and conditioning program. You can also go ahead and do a vertical jump test for, especially for those athletes who will be rebounding heavily within the games. It can help test maximum muscular power or high-speed strength. And a 40-yard sprint would be able to help measure a player's speed. Before starting a strength and conditioning program, I would recommend performing tests such as these in order to see where your athletes are at one point in time, and then being able to test them a year later and understand the growth that they have gone through. And it can also show in their season playing time during gameplay as well. Any factors that can contribute to any special considerations can be revolved around gender. However, men are on the optimistic end of the spectrum, given that women are more susceptible to ACL tears, given their biomechanical differences, higher valgus angles, decreased hip flexion and knee flexion. However, it does not mean that males are not susceptible to these injuries as well. So that being said, strengthening these muscles, evaluating an athlete's imbalances within his musculoskeletal structure, range of motion and strength, and even making population-specific adaptations can make a strength and conditioning program more specific within a yearly program. In relation to the program, I would recommend moderate to high levels of intensity, having exercises that range in variation, focusing on both types of muscle groups, and they can all work in unison in order to build muscular strength, hypertrophy, and an athlete's peak performance, which is in relation to speed, power, strength, anything like that. Within each season, athletes will perform plyometric exercises with focusing on improving agility and speed, just being faster on your feet. Performing exercises such as squat jumps, lateral barrier hops, box jumps, which is jumping onto a box, back down, and doing so repeatedly. Single leg hops. You can also draw like a line on the floor, and also do forward and backwards and side to side. throughout a specific period of time, and try to do it as quickly as possible. So for example, here, for maybe 30 seconds at a time each leg. Um, Doing so can help improve the speed and agility of a player. During preseason, I would recommend for athletes to heavily exercise throughout the week with more frequency, given that they are not undergoing any playing time or practices. This can help out with building the player up for the physical necessity, the physical needs of the team and the sport when in season. During season, I would recommend lower frequency. However, also I would lower repetition as well as rest periods, given that the athlete should be in a maximal state of performance at that time. And during the off season, I would recommend still attempting to perform any of these exercises. However, incorporating recreational activities such as racquetball, which can still help with agility and speed, aquatics, which can still be beneficial to the aerobic capacity of an athlete, walking, still periodically testing your 1.5 mile run time, just making sure that you're still maintaining a substantial amount of physical ability throughout the off season, and but it would be beneficial for an athlete to understand what it's like to build themselves up every season, up to in season, off season, preseason, anything like that. I would recommend moderate to high levels of intensity, variation, agility focused exercises within the sport that can be related into the sport, proper stretching, warm up, anything like that can help prevent any common injuries and definitely improve the state of the athlete. So, but thank you for your time. I thank you for everything. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.